What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, game two for Tuchel and a 2-0 win. It's almost kind of poetic. But yeah, so a lot of different things in this game, a lot of changes. So, kind of interesting to see. Just within two games, we've already seen two very different lineups, and honestly, the style of play is still coming along. But it's still interesting to see what Tuchel is doing differently than Lampard and what different things he's trying. And some of it is just trying to figure out, what's the best option for him, what are the best players moving forward. So it is kind of expected, but yeah, I mean, seeing Alonso in the lineup, going with a back three, it's pretty interesting. And not gonna lie, I'm glad to see that we have a coach coming in that's trying to adapt, trying some different things to see what sticks. Obviously, you can't keep doing that because you got to stick with one formation and one set of tactics for the most part. Because if you're constantly switching, then you're never gonna get into like that set form. But of course, it's good to know that if we do start to run out of steam with a certain formation or certain style, it's good to know that Tuchel knows how to switch things up and try a little bit different. Um, but yeah, I just want to tackle, kind of to make it easier, a bit of the positive and the negative of some of Tuchel's decisions in this. So first of all, I'll go ahead and address the negative stuff. I do think starting Jorginho again is kind of a negative. Now, nothing against Jorginho. I actually thought he had a pretty solid game today. But I still just feel like, even on his good games, it's still sometimes not as good as what some other players can bring in that position, whether it be better defensive work from Conte or better distribution from Gilmore. I just don't see Jorginho as being that useful a player. If he has games like today all the time, then he can be useful. But he doesn't have games like this all the time. And even this game, it's still not as good as some other players' best games. So I still just feel like he's not really a great asset for the club. I feel like he's a player that was a favorite of a previous manager under Sarri, and he's just not really found a footing in the Premier League, unfortunately. I don't think he's a good fit for the Premier League in general. So I feel like he needs to either go back to Italy or find a different a different league to be a part of, because when you're in the Premier League, you can't be as slow on the ball or off the ball as he is. And it's just a sad fact. Nothing against him, but he's just not quick enough to be playing in the Premier League, especially for one of the top clubs too. So it was a little bit of a negative to see him going with Jorginho again. Good to see Conte's at least back on the bench, so he's still returning from fitness. Another negative is I feel like, again, just a little too much possession-based play. And there were some moments when that possession turned into purposeful possession, but I still felt there were a lot of times that we're just looking to keep the ball. We're just looking to keep a hold of it. We're not looking to try to create an opportunity. We get the ball and we go, okay, well, that's a dangerous pass. I don't want to risk it. Let's just go back. And it just happens a few too many times for me. They talked about how much we passed the game to death against Wolves. We kind of did that again today. It's just we actually had a little bit more in the final third in this game. Now, whether that's because we were playing better or because Burnley I don't know what's going on with them this year. They're normally a side that knows how to pack it in and knows how to break out and counterattack. Both of the games that we faced them this year, I've not seen that. I remember earlier this season thinking the same thing, like, man, normally this Burnley team is so tough to play against, and it just seems so easy for us earlier. And this one as well. I mean, they have like one shot, not even on target all game. It's pretty easy, and not that they like made it super easy. They did pressure us high, but it just felt like it wasn't very organized. It felt like we played out of the back very easily at times. So again, I don't know how much is just Burnley is in a bad run of form right now, and they're not really organized in the back, and how much of it is we actually did some good work keeping possession in the final third and moving the ball in the final third. But there were a lot of times, though, that it didn't feel like it was going to anything. It was just, we're looking to keep the ball right now. And part of that is down to the final negative thing. There's still no real movement up top. And whether that's the players or the manager, it still does fall on the manager if it's the player's fault, because he should be the one telling them, hey, get moving. Now, this does play into a bit of a positive, which I'll talk about in a second, but one of the things, if you watched a lot of the games right before Lampard got sacked, a lot of the losses, a lot of the draws that we had, very obvious, no movement. Like, that was one of the big things. We didn't have enough movement up top. It was so stale because we didn't have anybody making runs off of each other. It was just the man on the ball is trying to make something happen. Most of the time it's Mount, and nobody's making a run for him. Nobody's trying to open up space, and so the other teams could just sit back, pack it in with like 9 or 10 behind the ball, and then look to counter on us because we didn't have enough creativity to break things down. And it just, the movement is what it comes down to. It comes down to the fact that nobody wants to make that checking run. Nobody wants to make a run into the box to draw a defender, which opens up space for somebody else. It's very simple stuff, and Lampard wasn't getting it done. So if Tuchel comes in, and if he had actually done his research, it would have been very obvious that that was one of the big issues. So that should have been one of his first messages coming into the dressing room is, hey, we need more movement up top. You guys need to be making more runs. You need stop standing around so much. Stop waiting for the game to come to you. You make something happen. And it doesn't feel like that's been the message, at least for the most part. Because on to the positives, the first thing I'll talk about is related to that. He did pull Tammy Abraham at halftime. And Abraham was one of the main ones that was just kind of standing and waiting. Like, everybody was, but he, I think, was doing it a bit more than everybody else. And that's unfortunate because that's not been his style this season. He has been very energetic. He has been trying to make things happen whenever he's played. But today, I mean, he was standing a lot. He was just waiting for the game to come to him a lot. I think they said he only had like 8 touches in the first half. I mean, that's pitiful, especially when you should be the target man because of your size. The fact that he didn't get that many touches shows he was not working as hard as he could have been. So Tuchel pulls him at halftime and brings on Pulisic, who does inject a bit more energy. He does move around a lot more. He does make those checking runs a lot. He looks to try to get on the ball and make something happen. And it did help boost our play in the second half. So, yeah, I do think it's a positive that he is willing to say, hey, you're not doing what I'm asking you to do. If that is the message, you're coming off. And, you know, again, I know people have the whole, like, oh, well, you don't want to kill his confidence. You don't want to just yank him and be like, you're done. But from a manager's perspective, you need to come in and take control. You need to come in and show, hey, you guys are the ones that are making this happen. You guys are definitely, you're important to the club, but I'm the manager. I see what's going on. I have a wider picture of it. Let me show you what I want you to do. If you can't do it, if you're not doing it, you're coming off. And that's how it should be. You know, it's become way too common these days that players kind of just get to do whatever they want, and player power, you know, they end up not playing well because they're like, oh, well, I don't like playing for this manager, and then the manager gets sacked, not them getting sold. And I feel like that happens a little too often. So I would prefer to see a manager that says, hey, if this guy's going to do what I ask him to and you're not, it doesn't matter that you might be one of our brightest strikers coming through the academy in years. I'm going to pull you off. You know, I need you to do what I'm asking you to do. I need you to provide more than what you're doing. And if you're not going to do it, you're coming off. And, you know, I don't know if that's... I'm speculating, honestly, is what it is. It could have been where he was just not feeling well today. It could have been where he was struggling with a little bit of a knock he picked up, maybe in training or something. And so that's why he wasn't playing well, and that's why they pulled him off at halftime, is because he didn't feel like he could continue to contribute. So that is a possibility, and I want to throw that out there just in case somebody, like, later on you find out, like, oh, it was because he was not feeling well, you know, he felt a little sick today. Like, if that's the case, then I apologize for going off on Abraham and all that. But, like I said, it's good to see that he's willing to make those decisions at halftime and not wait until the 70th minute like Lampard would do almost every game. So, another positive, though, is, of course, the formation. I like the fact that he's giving some different formations a chance. You know, last game it was kind of it started off as a 4-2-3-1 and then sort of shifted once once Pulisic came on, it kind of shifted into a back three, kind of a 3-4-3 in a way. This game it started off as a 3-5-2 and then kind of shifted once Pulisic came on and became a 3-4-3 again. So, or 3-4-2-1, I guess would be a better determination of it. But I like the fluidity. I like the fact that there's some flexibility to it. It's not, all right, we're going with the same formation. We're never going to change. We're going to stick with this. Because I don't think you can do that in the Premier League. And I said that several times for Lampard and for Sarri. You can't just stick to one formation and one style of play every single game. You can't. And I know a lot of teams want to try to do that, but unless you have the perfect team with the perfect players for one specific thing, like Liverpool did last year, where they just had all of the athletic players in a system that suited every single athletic player they had, and they could just run teams to death. They had the perfect team set up. Man City had it a couple years ago. Like, they had the perfect team set up to play Pep's style of quick passing, quick movement through the defensive units. I mean, it was just, they had those teams that fit those styles well. Most of the time, though, that doesn't happen. It's very rare that you get a team like that where everything just sort of fits together. Most of the time, you do have to make small adjustments if you want to continue to do well. You can't step to every game and say, all right, we're going to play the exact same way. Teams have to change for us. It just doesn't happen that often. So I like the fact that we have a manager who's coming in and has already shown I can switch things up. I can make some adjustments. And even in the middle of the game, we start off with a 3-5-2, but now I'm taking off one of the strikers. Now one of the attacking players is sitting a bit deeper. So now it's more of a 3-4-2-1. It's good. It's good to see. And on that note, I will also say, seeing him giving some players a chance to prove themselves. Alonso is a player that, personally, I wasn't going to be extremely sad if I saw him going this month. I wasn't going to be, heartbroken if he left. Because, yeah, we weren't playing with a back three. We weren't using wing backs. He's not a good fullback. It's very apparent. But now we've got a manager who's willing to try to use wing backs. And it probably won't be every game that he goes with the back three. It probably won't be every game he goes with the wing backs. But he has that option, and he wants to try to use that. Now Chilwell has to step his game up. Because that's one thing I've said. We need somebody to pressure Chilwell. We need somebody to push him because he's kind of faded away as the season went on after his roaring debuts. I mean, he started so well and then just sort of faded away because there was no pressure. Alonso, we knew, was not going to be a left back. Emerson isn't good enough. So Chilwell didn't have pressure and didn't stopped contributing defensively and attacking. I mean, he just sort of was there. And now he's got competition. Now we've got a manager who's willing to say, hey, let's go with the back three. Let's go with the wing back. Alonso, you're the best wing back we have. Chilwell now has to step his game up. I like that. I like the fact that he is able to bring in players like Alonso who didn't have a place in the team to now put some pressure on some of the should-be first-team players and get them firing again. And, even Abraham pulling him off at halftime. Hopefully that sparks a fire on him and says, hey, step it up. And if it gets him there, then perfect. I mean, that's what we want. That's why we brought in so many good players in the summer, is to put pressure on some of these players to step their games up, because we brought in players that are just as good, if not better than you. So if you want to continue to play, you got to show it. And I feel like that kind of disappeared as the season went on. It kind of started getting to where, no, we're going to keep playing this one way, and we're going to keep playing these same players. And so there was no real motivation to step the game up. So hopefully that continues to happen, and there continues to be that good, friendly competition. Obviously, you don't want to cause any problems in the locker room and all that. But yeah, I hope to see more of that as we go along. But yeah, I mean, that's most of what the negatives and positives were for Tuchel. The rest of the positives were more focused on individual play. But I think, first two games, we're seeing some steps in the right direction. There's still quite a bit, obviously, that he's still got to work on. He's still got to kind of figure some things out. But, I mean, it's going to hopefully come in time. This is still pretty early on. It's been, what? Has it been less than a week? I'm pretty sure it's been less than a week since Lampard got fired. So he's not been here that long. So definitely, obviously, still got to get some experience with these players under his belt and hopefully take him in the right direction and save our Europa League dreams at least, because feeling like Champions League is going to be a tough ask. But On to the players, though. Mendy, kind of a spectator. I will say one of the issues I've had with him this season, aside from the couple mistakes he's made, one of the overarching issues has been his feet. He's not always looked very comfortable with his feet. Today, he was required to use his feet a bit more, and I thought he did well. I thought he got himself out of some tough situations and kept the ball moving pretty well. So good to see that it looks like he's been working on that. It looks like that's been improving. As far as the back three is concerned, all of them I thought were pretty solid. Rudiger played well, good defensive challenges, hardly got drawn out of position. Silva was kind of the center man that just sort of stayed and read the situation, which is something he does very well. He's almost like the best of both worlds, like a mix of a stopper and a sweeper, which I've always thought, whenever we had the back three under like Conte, David Luiz was kind of the best stopper we had, whereas Christensen was the best sweeper. So it was like, it would depend on what the game called for. Like if you were facing a team where they were going to sit a bit deeper, you needed David Luiz because he was a good stopper. He could step up into the play a little bit, be a bit creative. But if you're going to face a team that was going to counterattack on you and hit you quickly, you needed Christensen to sort of stay back and be that defensive buffer. Silva has a bit of both in his game, I feel like. He's very creative on the ball, but he's also very good at reading the game, reading situations, and stepping back, being that defensive block that we need. So I like him in the center of back three, and I'll hold off my judgment to see what else happens. Obviously he could, in a couple games, suddenly stop being as good a defender as he has been. But seeing him in these first two games playing that center role in the back three, it does make me wonder why that wasn't tried sooner, because it just seems like that's a very comfortable position for him. Like that seems like something he is very used to doing, at least in my opinion. So hopefully he can continue to show us more in that position as well. And then Azpilicueta, obviously a goal scorer, right? Like we all knew. We knew he was a great attacking player. Obviously fantastic goal. But aside from that one brilliant moment, like just very solid again. Like he's always been a solid defender. He's always a defender that reads the game. Very good in a one-on-one defending situation. And he does it all very well and just showed the strikers and the attacking players how to finish. So brilliant for him. As far as the wingbacks are concerned, first I do want to talk about Alonso because I kind of feel like he's the player that's been on the periphery. He was the one that when I saw he was in the starting lineup, I didn't know how to feel because on the one hand, he is a very good attacking player. Like he is a very good wingback, and we know this. But also, he's not played hardly at all this season. Like I think he played one game early on before we got Chilwell in, and that's it. So, coming in after all of these years, all of these months of not playing, there was a concern. I wasn't sure how good he was going to be. I wasn't sure how fit, how ready for the first team action he was going to be. I was pleasantly surprised. He played decently enough. Wasn't great. Wasn't anything spectacular aside from the finish. But overall, just kind of did okay. Which normally would be kind of a bad thing. You want your players to be fantastic, at this level at least. But for me, considering his position, considering where he's been for this season, I feel like him playing okay, him having a decent game, is actually pretty good. And it's a good sign that even though he hasn't played a whole lot, he's still got the quality, he's still got that capability of stepping in when you need him. And especially, we know he has the quality for those finishes because it's something he's done while he's been here. It's something that he continues to show every season that he gets to play, is that he pops up with those fantastic moments in the box. And you're just like, okay, yeah, you're a good attacking player. But yeah, if we're going to continue to have the back three formation, I don't know how often we're going to use it, if this is going to be a consistent thing or if it's going to be something that kind of is more of a situational thing, but it's good to know that he is still capable of being called on when we need him, when we need to go with the back three. So it was very promising for him in that sense. And then Hudson-Odoi on the right side, again, very promising. Like he's a player that he's been a wing, and we know he's a good wing. He's been showing his quality for most of this season. And he's finally sort of stepped in that first team role. In my opinion, he's showing more than Ziyech and Pulisic right now. So I'm glad that now he's getting a chance to show all of those capabilities. He's getting more time to show that. And what I kind of like about him being on the wingback role is that he does do both sides of the ball pretty well. He's not a fantastic defender, but he does work back. He does bust it on both sides of the ball. So it's, in my opinion, not a bad choice to put him out right wing back. And on top of that, he is a player that's willing to stay wide, where Alonso kind of cuts in a little too much for me as far as wing back is concerned. Hudson-Odoi will stay wide. He will be out there. He will be the option to send out to get a cross in. And he had so much time and space because Burnley were just not stepping out to him. So I feel like he was a good player to put out there because he wasn't really required to do a whole lot of defensive work, but he would if you needed him to. But also he had the time and space to kind of show what he's capable of because he is a good winger. So I enjoyed getting to see him out there and, in a position he's not used to, but a position I think that he could step into at some point. Maybe not against like the better teams. I wouldn't really trust him against like a Liverpool or Man City type team at the wingback position. But as far as, like going up against these teams where they are going to look to hit you more on the counter and they're not going to like possess it a lot and he's not going to have to do a whole lot of defending, I think it's a good option for him. Jorginho and Kovacic in the midfield both had very solid games in my opinion. Kovacic looks like he's flourishing under Tuchel, which is very bizarre to me because I figured if a manager was going to get the best out of midfielders, it would be Lampard. But for some reason this season, it felt like Kovacic was sort of stunted in his growth, as far as getting into the final third and being that creative attacking player. It seemed like like Lampard was kind of holding him back a little bit. And now Tuchel is almost giving him free license to get up in the attack, and he's showing what he can do on the ball. I mean, again, it's something that whenever he was playing for Sarri, there were times I would get him and Hazard confused because if it was so far away and it was a little blurry, their running and their dribbling is very similar. Like the way they can glide through opponents is very similar. So I feel like he's a player that should have been more involved in the attack this entire season. And now Tuchel's given him kind of that license to roam up into the attack a little bit. And it's showing that it's paying dividends, in my opinion. So I'm glad to see that he's starting to flourish a little bit. And then Jorginho, I thought, again, one of his better games. He moved the ball really well. There were a couple times in the first half where he was the same old Jorginho, but as the game wore on, like he was moving the ball quicker. He was defending pretty well. He was cutting off passes. And his passing wasn't just side to side or backwards anymore. Like there were better, more attack-minded passes, more building the play instead of just keeping possession, which is one of the issues I have with him. So if he continues to play like that, then yes, I do think he's a very useful player. But again, this is one game out of 20-something this season. I think it's been 20. Yeah, it's been over 20. One game out of several that he's played that I feel like he played well today, but that doesn't make up for all the other games where he's just not shown anything. So he's going to have to continue to put games like this together, or else, again, I just don't think he's very useful to us. I think we've got better options. Then you go up in front of them. Mount was kind of the player behind the two strikers, and really where a lot of our attack came from in the first half. We didn't create a whole lot of opportunities, but when we did, most of the time Mount was the one doing it. Again, showing why he's such a useful player. And I really do think that after that 10 minutes that Tuchel gave him in the last game, I really think Tuchel said, okay, we'll give you some more time. We need to be giving you some more time. And again, kind of a weird thing. Like you would think Tuchel would do his research before coming in and see, all right, what are the players I need to be looking at? What are the players that deserve to play? Mount would be one that definitely deserves to play based on all of his performances this season. But yeah, again, showed what he's capable of. The only real downside to his game today was the finishing. Most of the time he's better. He can hit it on target. I don't know what was going on today. But yeah, a lot of missed opportunities from his shots. But still, all of his creativity on the ball and setting up his teammates, that's what he brought today. So even when he has a part of his game that's sort of taken a downturn, he still has other parts that he can bring that still help the team. And his work rate is always 110%. So I don't understand how you cannot choose him. And then the front two, Abraham, already talked about him a bit. Just not a great performance today. Not very energetic. Seemed kind of just lazy. Didn't want to move. So totally understand why he got pulled at halftime. And again, whether it was because of some sickness or injury, or whether it was just because he wasn't having a good game today, hopefully he can pick it up, because I still want to see him succeed here. And then Werner didn't play terribly. I mean, still lacking that finishing touch, but it feels like he's working in the right direction. You know, he's working hard. He's getting himself in the good positions. One of the things they talked about at halftime, Robbie Mustoe was talking about, is he's making those runs, but people aren't really looking for it. And I do agree. I feel like he loves to make those runs and slip in behind the defense. So let's start playing those runs. And yes, there is that kind of mindset of like, oh, well, he's not in good form, so maybe his touch won't be the best. But if you don't give him the opportunity to, then you won't know for sure, and you won't give him the opportunity to grow out of the bad form. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, on the one hand, yes, if you give it to him and he messes it up, then his confidence drops even more, if it can drop more. But if you continue to give him these opportunities, one of them will come off, which then will build his confidence and then, hopefully lead to more opportunities. So, yeah, I want to see a bit more of trying to use him, trying to utilize those runs in behind, because the runs is something that he continues to do well. Whether or not he's finishing, I think that he knows how to make those runs and how to put pressure on the defense and cause them to have to track him. But if they see that nobody's playing him, then they're not really going to feel like they have to track him. So got to make sure that we keep him involved. As far as the subs that came on, Pulisic on for Abraham, good sub, brings in another player that's very mobile and provides a bit more support, I think, for Mount, because Mount was kind of on his own for a lot of it. He had the option to play it wide, but as far as like in the middle, Kovacic would step up every now and then, but wasn't really an option for him. He was more making another run. Pulisic came on and provided that option, so that way he had somebody else to play to. And it also opened up some more space because Pulisic was making the runs, which was drawing defenders, which is what Abraham was not doing. So I feel like it opened up our play a bit in the second half, which is why we created so many more opportunities in the second half. I hope he can finish here soon, because you could see the frustration building every time he just narrowly misses. So hopefully that comes for him soon. James came on for Hudson-Odoi, and good solid performance from him. I think wingback takes a lot of the pressure off of him. He doesn't have to be so focused on the defense, and he can get up in the attack, which is something that I feel like he's not been able to do this season. He's been having to focus defensively, and it's kind of put a lot of pressure on him to be the wide man while still also having to track back, which is something he's not done well in some games. So I feel like giving him that wingback position allows him to focus on getting those crosses in, because it's something he can do very well. But now he also provides a bit more defensive cover than Hudson-Odoi does. So I like that switch. It helped us, I think, keep Burnley out a little bit more, since they were starting to push a little bit further forward as the half wore on. But yeah, so in my opinion, though, it's pretty solid. Didn't do anything spectacular, but did his job well, and hopefully can continue to get back to his full form, which is what we need from him right now. And then finally, Havertz came on for Mount. Good to give Mount a break. We do have Tottenham in the midweek, so yeah, definitely nice. Ooh, definitely nice to give him a bit of a break, and give Havertz a chance to have a bit of a run out and see what he can do in the closing minutes. Because Havertz is a player that I do think is finally starting to get back to where he was before he got COVID. And that's something that you can tell it affected him. He really dropped out of form. He was not playing well. He wasn't really working hard. It seemed like his energy levels weren't up. So now it seems like he's finally starting to get back to what we saw sort of at the beginning of the season for those few games, like the creativity, the ability to turn opponents and sort of go into space. And also his passing has come along very well too. He nearly sets up Werner, but then it was a great defensive block from from Ben Mee, that ends up stopping it. But that pass it's a good pass. It's not one that he underweighted. it's one that the defender has to make a great challenge to block. So, yeah, I feel like he's showing some more of what we expected to get whenever we bought him. So I hope he can continue to sort of build himself back up and get to where we need him to be. But overall, I mean, like I said, it's a good performance. It's a good result. Tuchel is still kind of getting into the driver's seat here. He's still kind of finding out what players work best, finding out what formation and system work best. And it's going to still take some time. Like, the game against Tottenham, I think, will be his first real test. I think Wolves was kind of he's been in the job for 1 or 2 days, so, just don't lose, and he did that. And then the Burnley game is one where it can be a tough game, but then Burnley didn't really come to play, it seemed like. So, yeah, he was given a bit of an easy game to sort of figure out formation and figure out tactics and give some players a chance to show that they can do what he needs them to. Now Tottenham will be the test. Jose Mourinho, they're not in great form right now, but we know Mourinho is always a manager who can get a result, is basically what they need. So we definitely need to make sure that we come prepared to play. Tuchel, it'll be a good test to see, is he going to keep his tactics the same? Is he going to switch things up again? Is he going to give some of these players that played well today another chance to perform? Or is he going to go to some other players and say, all right, now let's see if you can perform? Because I feel like that's going to be kind of the interesting thing is, obviously Alonso played decently today. Whereas Chilwell didn't really have a great game against Wolves. Jorginho played pretty well today, but Conte's coming back from his injury. Abraham didn't really play well today, but Werner didn't really finish either. But Giroud's not really in great form, so what do you do with your strikers? Do you keep going with the two? Do you just stick with the one with the two in behind? There's a lot of different things you can try to do, and I feel like that's kind of why, even though there's a concern that things may not work out, I'm still pretty excited to see where this season goes now, because now we've got a manager who seems like he is a bit more flexible than Lampard was. And obviously he's got more experience as well, having managed some very big clubs. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he's going to do next, and I'm excited to see like where our season's going to go from here. Like, are we going to actually get back into the Champions League spots, or are we at least going to stay in touch with it so that way by the end of the season we have a chance to get back there? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But with all that being said, that's all for me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this game? What are your thoughts on Tuchel so far? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Peace out.